This kind of production.
Did you see that shit? MMA podcast. Hosted by mixed martial arts journalist Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21, and Chicago's number one underground comedian, Apollo Taj Mahal.
Yo, Mike.
What's up, bro?
Boise City is now Knockout City. Holy cow, that was an exciting card.
Yeah, Hammer Fist City, right?
Oh my gosh, I am now going to utilize Hammer Fist forever.
Yeah, UFC Boise was a pretty entertaining card, man. We had a lot to choose from, right? As MMA fans, we had Bellator 202, 203.
Great card as well.
Yeah, pretty solid. You have a Bellator kickboxing, and then, of course, as you mentioned at the top of the show, UFC Boise, and it keeps on rolling along because this weekend we have UFC Hamburg, and then on Thursday, PFL 4. So let's get to it, man. Another busy show. We're going to recap Bellator 202 and 203 and UFC Boise. We'll look ahead to PFL 4 and Hamburg, as we said. Plus, we have 4 interviews. We have UFC Hamburg fighter Justin Ledet, Contender Series contract winner Anthony Hernandez, and 2 PFL fighters, Lance the Party Palmer and Andre the Bull Harrison. But before we get to it, we do appreciate all the love and support, guys. Whatever the platform you're listening to us on, just keep doing it. Also, you can like and follow the podcast on all the social media platforms, as well as Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, TuneIn Radio, and iTunes. Even our website, didyousseethatshit.com. Follow us on Twitter as well at AKStrauss21.
Apollo T. Mahal on all media platforms.
Shoot me an email at mike@didyousseethatshit.com if you want to get more intimate. All right, Apollo. UFC Boise is in the books. JDS, I don't want to say he looked impressive, but he got the job done as he welcomed UFC newcomer and the last man to be the World Series of Fighting heavyweight champion Blagoy Ivanov to the UFC. What did you think of JDS's performance?
For a guy who took a year off due to some miscommunications with diuretics, why are you taking diuretics? Anyway, it's not my business, not my problem. But I got to say, what I was impressed with wasn't necessarily his fighting style, was just the pace that he was able to keep for all 25 minutes against a very, very tough guy from the World Series of Fighting. It wasn't impressive. It was a good performance. I don't see it bringing him into title contention, but if he can string some good wins off of this, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, it was a workmanlike performance by JDS. I was expecting a little bit more from Blagoy, but maybe those UFC jitters, maybe those got to him. Those are a very real thing. He just didn't look the same. He looked a little gun-shy. He wasn't his typical self where he was moving forward. He looked to be countering a lot more. But, nonetheless, it was a satisfactory debut for Ivanov, but it was a very decent win for JDS. I agree with you, man. I don't think this is going to catapult him into title contention, but he is calling for a rematch with Stipe, kind of a title eliminator fight. I think he might be jumping the gun on that, but it's going to be interesting to see what the UFC lines up for JDS and Ivanov next. How about Sage Northcutt, man? He ran through Zach Otto, hammer fist, 3:13 of round 2. I picked Otto to win this fight. Northcutt, he is every bit of 170 pounds, and now he's talking about maybe going up to middleweight later in his career.
Well, one, he's a growing boy and a freak of nature. So I'm not shocked of anything that happens to him physically, because this dude is a freak. I thought him moving to alpha male was the best thing he had ever done for his career. And the fact that he's taken time off to put on weight for 170, man, you really saw what that can do. With his athleticism, if he can really put everything together with the help of Uriah Faber, that kid in 2 to 3 years is going to be a scary, scary mofo.
Yeah, he looked good, man, and shouts out to Zach Otto too. He's a friend of the show, and I know he'll rebound and get back on the winning track.
He's a top-notch fighter. He's definitely gonna rebound from this.
Alpha Male had a really good night, man. Rick Glenn, another guy that transit to Alpha Male, he took a close split decision over Dennis Bermudez. A lot of people didn't agree with it. Bermudez put out a really funny tweet afterwards saying that, hey, to the judges anyway, he said, if you're going to fuck me like that, at least buy me a drink first. I thought that was pretty funny.
I thought Bermudez won that fight, honestly. I'm on Bermudez's side, but you know what? They should buy you a drink.
How about Nico Price, man? He obliterated Randy Brown with hammer fist again, 1 minute and 9 seconds into round 2. This was unusual because Nico Price had Randy Brown locked up in like a heel or an ankle hook from the bottom. And, Brown's chin presented himself, and Nico Price just threw a couple hammer fists, and Brown was out after the very first one.
Oh, my God.
He hit him with like 3 extra. It's amazing the power that you can generate with hammer fist, and you're really starting to see that now.
Yeah, I was listening to Chael Sonnen talk about the hardest hit he ever received
From Damian Maia.
Which is shocking.
Right.
That Damian Maia, but
especially in the position that he described from off, he was in Damian Maia's guard, and Maia hit him with like a little back fist.
Yeah, now, but you know who else has always been very good off the bottom is also Tony Ferguson and Bas Rutten.
Mm-hmm.
Bas Rutten would utilize the palm strikes, and Tony Ferguson utilizes the elbows from the bottom. And then also Forrest Griffin was using that against Tito Ortiz, if we remember, in their first fight when he was on his back throwing up. So I think that guys are going to start utilizing off their back a lot more strikes and being more dynamic.
And as Chael said, he thinks the next evolution is going to be the palm strike again. So it's going to come full circle back to Bas Rutten.
Oh, Bas Rutten's going to be holding so many seminars.
Bang, 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 bang. Right away after that, dang. See what I'm doing? Boom! That's the left elbow right there.
So not only will it be the liver kicks, it'll be the palm strikes that we'll have to thank El Guapo for.
Maybe Bas Rutten is from the future.
Could be. How about Chad Mendes, man? He's back to the future after a 2-year layoff from USADA. He ran through Miles Jury, TKO, 252 of round 1. Business just picked back up at 145 pounds.
Yeah, the featherweight division is now looking deep again for the first time in a while. For a while, it just seemed like it was Brian Ortega, Frankie Edgar, and Jeremy Stevens, and Max Holloway, of course. But now you're adding Chad Mendes into that mix. And Chad Mendes is not afraid to take a short notice fight. So if the Brian Ortega, Max Holloway gets booked again and something happens again, guess what? Chad Mendes or Jeremy Stevens will be injected into that fight real quick.
And then Kat Zingano, she took a unanimous decision over Marion Renault. Good win for Kat. I'm glad I was wrong about this because Kat is just a fantastic story. And again, she's endured more than any human should have to. So hats off to her. And I'm glad to see that she's back on the winning track.
I would like to give her a huge round of applause right now. Thank you very much. She is an inspiration, and I am really happy when I get to see her win.
Also on the undercard, shouts out to Alexander Volkanovski. He beat Darren Elkins via unanimous decision, and Hani Barcelos KO'd Kurt Hollabaugh, 129 of round 3. Both men took home $50,000 for fight of the night, and shout out to Kurt Hollabaugh. He's a friend of the show. He came up a little bit short in that war, but it was a hell of a fight, and I know Kurt will get back on it very soon because I do believe he is an elite featherweight.
That was one hell of a fight, though.
Tuesday Night Contender Series is back this week, and we had a chance to catch up with Week 2 contract winner Anthony Fluffy Hernandez.
Love that nickname.
It's a great nickname. He's a training partner to longtime friend of the show, Max Payne Griffin, and this kid is a very fun, down-to-earth, exciting middleweight. Here's our conversation with Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I want to welcome Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to the show for the first time. You may have seen him on Week 2 of Dana White's Contender Series, where he only needed 40 seconds to earn a contract. What's going on, man?
Nothing else, just chilling.
You looked fantastic on the Contender Series, man. I mean, a lot of folks, if they haven't seen you fight before, we only got to see 40 seconds of you. But describe your fighting style for someone who only has seen those 40 seconds.
My fighting style, I'm aggressive. I like to press forward, and I like to give you a lot of action. Obviously, it's not always the safest because you can get clipped, but I'm pretty confident with my movement and my timing. So I think I'm a very aggressive fighter.
Fair to say you're aggressive, and it's fair to say that you haven't got caught yet, man. At least professionally, because you're 7-0. You're only 24 years old, and man, you're on an 8-fight winning streak. And I think that it was a no-brainer for the UFC to bring you on. But you're going to make this middleweight division pretty interesting, man.
No, it's the game plan. I'm young. I'm fucking hungry, so I like money. So I'm ready to put a show on. Especially with the UFC, the money's there. If you put your ass on the line, I mean, you can get rewarded $50,000 on top of a bonus, So I'm ready.
Well, you appear to be ready, man. I mean, one of your teammates that was advocating for you, Max Griffin. He's been on the show a few times. Like give me a few words on what does it mean to you to have such an amazingly close brotherhood with your fighters, man.
It's all you could really ask for, It's more than just homies, It's we grind with each other every day. So it's he's literally like an older brother to me. He's been beating my ass since I was fucking 15, and he was a pro back in the day, just beating my ass, and I wasn't even like an amateur, but like it made me who I am. So I'm super thankful for Max and like all the other dudes. They just kicked my ass.
Now, do you feel that you're a bigger middleweight, or do you is 170? Would that even be something you could consider or make, or is middleweight where you want to be?
I've tried to get to 170. It's not for me. I can't do it. Like it's hard for me to make 85. So 85 is cool for me.
Yeah, I think 85. I honestly think there's more room in 85 too. 170, there's just so many killers there, you know.
No, I don't even know. I don't follow UFC, honestly, but I don't really follow fighting.
Really? You're not a big fan of the sport?
No, I just really don't care for it. Like, it's more of a job to me. I treat it more like a job. Like, I have my family time, and then I have my job. Fortunately, I was good at fighting, not college, so that's where I'm at.
No, it's all good, man. So what do you do for fun then? Are you a video gamer? Do you like to go out to the club? I mean, obviously you have your family.
Yeah. I like to do like video games, but I'm more of like a country guy, so I like to like be outside, chill with my chickens. Like honestly, on my days off, I'd rather do nothing with my kids than like go out and shit.
I hear you, man. Recharging the batteries is where it's at. Especially, you know, I'm 37, so when you get older, I mean that time, that downtime, so to speak, is really what it's all about, you know.
No, yeah.
So man,
I'd rather just like chill at home, barbecue, and just like have fun. That's more my style.
That's what it's about, man. I mean, so looking through your career here, man, you fought a lot of super tough guys. I mean, obviously, Jordan Wright, you KO'd a couple of weeks ago, but you fought Brendan Allen, Mike Parsons. You fought a lot of tough dudes, man. I mean, do you feel that's prepared you for the fights you're gonna get now in the UFC?
No, yeah, definitely. It was that, and I fucking fight Max every day in the gym. Like, I mean, I've fought in like high level guys, I've sparred with high level guys. I think I'm ready for I thought I was ready for the big show a long time ago, but obviously you got to put in your time and put in your dues. So I finally made it, and it feels good now, you know.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Were you always athletic growing up? I mean, did you play other sports?
No. I played sports, but I was a little fat kid, so like my balance always sucked, and like I was always slow. But I mean, like I was good at sports. I was just a little fat kid.
How did you get into fighting?
I was like a little, so pretty much me and my buddies, like I said, we'd like sit around the house and do nothing, and we'd get bored and put on gloves and just beat the fuck out of each other, like pride rules. And then pretty much my dad's like, you guys are idiots, you're gonna get hurt. And then my cousin's like, hey, come try this gym out, and I did, and fucking fell in love with it. Next thing you know, started doing better in school, graduated, fucking started fighting. The rest is history.
So it's literally, man, it literally saved your life then.
Pretty much, just fucking, I don't know what I'd be doing with my life. Probably going to college still, but it's not for me.
And that's so cool, man. You're taking some time with me today to speak. It's your son's birthday today, so happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
And well, yeah, man. I always like to give you guys. I always like to give fighters here a few minutes if you want to shout your sponsors, your teammates, anything you'd like, man.
Give me a second. I gotta pull up some notes real quick.
Yeah, no worries.
Sponsors. Oh yeah, thank you for having me too, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime.
My haircut spot, JP. Thank you. Relish Burger. They got some fire burgers and like 36 handles. They got like 36 pretty much beers on tap, so it's awesome. Then A1 Muffler. Have my cars always sounding right. Pacific Audio. Be Waterless. Car Detailing. Tattoo Trees, my tattoo artist, Terp House, and I think that is it. My honey sponsor, I got a honey sponsor that's fucking super clutch. It's a local honey sponsor.
Very cool. Well, Anthony, I appreciate your time, man. I know that today is an extra special day because it is your son's birthday. Again, happy birthday with that. I wish you the best of luck, man, and I look forward to speaking with you again when they finally get you your official debut there.
No, yeah. Thank you. Hell yeah. We'll get another one in.
All right. Take care, Anthony. Have a good weekend, man.
You too, boss. Thank you.
There you go.
Fluffy, you are going to have an amazing career in the UFC, whether you do anything or not, just for that nickname alone.
Speaking of amazing careers in the UFC, Brendan Schuab. That
was not an amazing... You know
he's
what?
had an amazing post-UFC career,
Yes,
I'd say, thanks to Joe Rogan, but...
You know, Everybody needs a little help to get off their feet.
This is true.
Hey.
But the beef with him and Dana White, man, I know that you got some thoughts on this.
Okay, so one, it all started because of Stylebender. We all remember Stylebender posted a video where he was basically rolling his eyes at Brendan Schuab because Brendan Schuab was talking about kickboxers entering the UFC.
In case you don't know how I feel about Brendan Schuab, I'm not his biggest fan, but I will come to his defense here because
He was talking about Gokhan Saki.
correct. He wasn't, according to him, he wasn't even referring to Adesanya. He was talking about Saki, but hey, fighters have thin skin sometimes.
They got egos. And by the way, Stylebender, you should never have to worry about anybody talking about you. You are one hell of a fighter. But Brendan Schaub was obviously talking about Gokhan Saki in his own defense. That's what he said. And Dana White came at him talking about how he got knocked out and just coming straight at him. But Brendan Schaub, I don't know how he is as a comic. I'm excited to eventually find out. But I got to say, he is decently witty because he tweeted out basically saying looks like Dana White stepped away from folding Ronda's laundry for a bit to insult me on Twitter. Yeah, let's not talk. Let's take advice from the fat old guy who's never been in a fight.
And he also claimed they were Eskimo brothers. And if you don't know what that is, of course, the league reference. They coined that phrase, and that is a common reference to when two friends have slept with the same partner, the same woman. So that's kind of what that refers to, which opens the whole Pandora's box to did Dana and Brendan Schaub both sleep with one Ronda Rousey?
Well, we know Brendan Schaub did.
Well, more than likely, they were dating.
Yeah, they were dating. Here's what I'm going to say about that. That's just, it seemed more funny to me than anything, and it seemed like a really good jab. But Brendan Schaub did make a really good point, and I'm not always on Brendan Schaub's on his side because I think he's wrong about a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. But on his podcast, Below the Belt, he went into, he kind of was talking about Dana White after the whole beef and was going down about it. And it's true. Dana White is a bit of a bully. And Dana White, I have felt, has also helped destroy and help build many careers. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't like you, no matter what, he will try to destroy your career in some way or form or bash you in some way or form when I don't feel it's necessary.
Well, I don't know if Dana will go out of his way to destroy you, but he won't go out of his way to help you if he doesn't like you.
Well, like the Ariel Helwani situation, getting him kicked off of the Showtime thing.
Right. This is what I'll say about that. Ariel Helwani did something that he should not have done as a journalist, so
I agree with that.
He broke the journalistic code. And therefore, I believe that Dana White, or any promoter for that matter, should have the right to not want to work with that person going forward. I believe that is just anyone's business practice. So I don't think necessarily that Dana did anything wrong there. But I will agree with you in this regard. If you get on Dana's bad side and you cross him, he is not going to do any favors for you.
No.
But if you don't ever burn that bridge with Dana, I don't believe he's going to go out of your way to bury you.
No.
But this is definitely an interesting narrative that's developing between Dana and Schaub because it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon because each guy, it seems, every day is throwing another jab out at each other. You see it on social media.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, I see something about Schaub going back. So who knows, man? But, all in all, it's good, I think, because there's no such thing as bad publicity.
No.
And God knows, man, mixed martial arts
needs the publicity.
We need the help.
Yeah. And another note, guys. Yes, Brendan Schaub got helped out a lot by Joe Rogan and by Brian Callen, I'll say. Mm-hmm. But you know what? He's taken that ball and he's run with it. I give him a round of applause just for even doing that. And everybody needs a little bit of help, so I'm not going to hate him for it.
Lastly, real quick, I do agree with Dana, and that is when Joe Rogan does stop helping Schaub, I do believe Schaub will fade away faster than disco. Bellator 203 happened, part of Bellator's triple feature last weekend. Patricio Pitbull defended his featherweight title against Daniel Weichel via split decision. I actually scored this fight 48-47 for Weichel.
So I didn't watch the fight until after I knew the result.
Which is how I think most people did because of Bellator's unique situation that is going to be rectified very shortly when they premiere on DAZN.
Is it DAZN?
It's DAZN.
Oh, man, it's such a hard thing to pronounce.
DAZN sounds much better, but it's actually DAZN. You get it? Like you're in DAZN?
No, I don't
nice
like it.
Pun, asshole.
I'm calling it DAZN.
Exactly.
So when they're going to be on DAZN, but yeah, I saw it after I knew the result, which kind of sucked for me. Mm-hmm. And I did score it against Patrici, and I never score against a Pitbull because I'm biased. But yeah, I had discord against him. He just didn't do enough in that fight to rectify the win. But guess what? When you're the champ, you kind of get to slide by. We saw with George St. Pierre against Johnny Hendricks. We've seen it several times. If you want to be the champ, you have to beat the champ. And I'm a firm believer that if you're going to put it in the judges' hands, you have no right to complain.
No, I feel you on that, man. To me, the most interesting development from this main event, from the way that this played out, was Bellator #1 featherweight contender and friend of the show, Emmanuel El Matador Sanchez, went to social media after this and said, okay, Pitbull, time for a new champ, time for the new era. So
I think Emmanuel can do it. I really do.
it's a great fight.
I have never bet against the Pitbull. I think that they're just my favorite fighters in the world. But man, Emmanuel Sanchez is the scariest man I've ever seen in my life.
Alessio Sakara, he wrecked Jamie Sloan, only took him 1 minute and 19 seconds, round 1 KO. That was pretty much just a gimme for the Italian fans. And then Andrei Koreshkov, in case you forgot how talented this welterweight was.
Spinning back kick. Spinning back KO, not TKO. Spinning back kick.
Perfectly placed to the liver, man. It only took him 1 minute and 6 seconds to do so.
Stay away from my liver.
The only thing about Koreshkov to me is he looks permanently cross-eyed. Like he took one too many hard elbows to the head. He looks permanently cross-eyed, but I would never say that to his face because he is a dangerous individual.
Listen, he probably has because he's a beast, and he probably just walked through those and just started spinning back kicking everybody.
PFL 4 takes place Thursday already.
I know, wow. It just feels like yesterday we were talking about PFL 1. Oh, wait, that was only like 3 episodes ago.
The thing that's good about this event, man, is this is actually going to be the first PFL event of the next round. So now we're gonna start to see Lance Palmer earn 5 points in his first fight. So what is he gonna earn in this fight? Is he gonna have enough to make that 8-man cutoff to make it to the next round? Him and Andre Harrison are the main event and co-main event. We had a chance to speak with both individuals leading up to the fight. We're gonna play the Andre Harrison interview right now. I want to welcome back to the show Mr. Andre the Bull Harrison, who fights in just a matter of a couple days here, PFL 4, Nassau Coliseum. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Just left Lower MMA, finished up my open workout, had a little bit of fun there. And, now looking to go get some food and relax a little bit.
Well, thank you for doing this, man. As I said, your fight is just in a matter of days, and it's a big fight for you, man. It's your second fight in the PFL. You took home 3 points in your first fight, and you're looking to definitely get a win, but looking to move on into the next round. How has camp been heading into this one?
It's been awesome, man. I'm at a phenomenal gym. I got some amazing coaches, some amazing partners, man. And so for me, I had a great camp, man. I wouldn't have changed anything at all. It was an awesome camp, man. I'm just ready to go out there and then have some more fun.
For sure. Now, Andre, you are the co-main event here, and I found that pretty interesting, or rather head-scratching, because it's pretty close to your backyard there is in Nassau, and they have Lance Palmer, who, don't get me wrong, he's a phenomenal fighter, but I just figured that you would be the headliner. What's going on with that?
Your guess with all of that is just as good as mine. When I found out that I was the main event for MSG, I was like, all right, that's cool. I was excited. I was happy. And I didn't really expect to be I didn't really know or expect. But then when they said, if you look at the card, of course you would be. I only thought that it would make that much more sense to put me as the main event at the Coliseum. I went to school in Freeport. I went to Nassau Community College, which is, pretty much across the street. And, I train here on top of that. So, right now I am New York. You know what I mean? I am Long Island. It's not, out of all the homegrown fighters that we got out there doing well and everything. And, it's me. I don't know why you would have somebody who has zero ties to New York and somebody that I beat on top of that. Actually, somebody. Because if you look at the main event, both guys have losses on their record, and it's from me. It wouldn't make sense to me, but it is what it is, man. I'm not the matchmaker. I don't dictate, who fights where. I don't dictate where the venues are. I just fight. And so for me, at first it was a little bit of frustrating, but for right now, after everything cleared and everything was all well and good, my job is to fight, man. So it doesn't matter if they put me as the first person on the card. People are still coming out to see me. You know what I mean? And that's all that matters to me. Me having the ability to go out here and fight in front of my home crowd, that's all that matters to me, and I'm happy.
Yeah, for sure, man. And all those points are extremely valid. And you do hold a victory over Lance. So that's the thing that really is head scratching. But
And Juma.
and Juma. Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, it doesn't make much sense there. But, Andre, if you look at the bracket here for the featherweight division in the PFL, it's no secret that yourself and Lance are probably the two favorites. Have you allowed yourself to kind of think and play it out that you could be fighting a guy eventually that you've already beaten for $1 million? Have you thought about that?
No. I take it one fight at a time, man. You have to. Everybody always asks me that, man. So what are you going to do when you win $1 million? What would you do if you won $1 million? Everybody always asks me that, but you legitimately can't think about that. You know what I mean? And I'm human. There's times, and I've seen Lance several times already since he's gotten to New York, and you can't help but think about some of that stuff, but as much as humanly possible, you have to negate all of that out your brain, man. I have to worry about Nazareno, because if I don't do what I'm supposed to do against Nazareno, then none of that other stuff matters.
You're 100% right there, Andre, and that's one of my favorite things about you, man, is that you're down to earth, you're grounded in reality, and you don't look past your immediate objective. But it seems like every time we talk, man, I bring up the fact that I believe you're criminally underappreciated in mixed martial arts. I mean, just looking through, first off, you're unbeaten, okay? I mean, if that doesn't say, it by itself that you hold an 18-0 record, I mean, that's phenomenal. Looking at your record here, man, as you said, you hold victories over Lance Palmer, Steven Seiler, Des Green, Kurt Hollabaugh. Both those last two guys are both doing very well in the UFC. But do you feel that this tournament has really been the coming out party for you?
Yeah, honestly, I do, and it's more so instead of like I feel like MMA is non-existent. It's UFC. So if you're not in the UFC, the fact that you fight is like irrelevant. Like you could have fought in ONE FC, you could have fought in Titan, Bellator, wherever. And people will come up to you and be like, how many fights you got? You be like, yo, I got 12. And they be like, all right, cool. When are you going to turn pro and fight in the UFC? Like, that's how people's minds work. Like, they don't understand that going pro doesn't mean that you're in the UFC. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Going pro just means now you have the ability to get paid for it. And, so for me, like, with the tournament going the way it's going, for example, when I fought at MSG, like, my face was on billboards throughout Manhattan, and so with that happening, people are looking like, oh, this is like actually like serious. Like it might not just be the UFC that can put your face on a billboard in New York City. You know what I mean? It's not just the UFC that could put you to fight in Nassau Coliseum. You know what I mean? So the tournament, the way that they're pushing the fighters, it's definitely like reaching a bigger audience. There's not a day that goes by where I can scroll down my social media feed and not see myself on some sort of advertisement, and I've been on commercials on the radio, on TV, so for me, like, I think the tournament is pushing the fighters and it's allowing people to see that, people can fight outside the organization and get TV time and win big money on top of that too.
Yeah, I agree completely, man. Andre, you're a guy that has been synonymous with World Series of Fighting and now PFL. You've been there through the majority of the run. But let me ask you, man, what are some of the big changes with PFL and World Series of Fighting? Because when they were in Chicago, I had a chance to attend PFL too, and I'll tell you, man, I was super impressed with the way the whole production of PFL was. Very professional, very top-notch. What are some of the changes that you've noticed?
For me, the biggest change would be the advertisement. I feel like when I fought for World Series of Fighting, like there would be like little pamphlets here and there at like I attended an amateur fight in Missouri in Queens, and they had like pamphlets for you to get tickets to see World Series compete at MSG on New Year's Eve, and but it was like every once in a while you would get a cue into World Series of Fighting. I feel like PFL is really making like a push as far as advertisement goes, where the logo is getting seen more and more by more and more people. you know, and I feel like that's the biggest thing. And I feel like it's probably one of the most important things, man. Aside from, obviously, like, as a fighter, you want to get paid more money. So for me, that's the biggest thing. And I'm happy with, you know, the pay increase and you know, the bonus, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, I'm happy for all of that. But I'm also happy with like how they're pushing us, man. You're a pro athlete. You work out and train every day as a pro athlete. You do want some kind of recognition for it too. You don't want to just, you know, you don't want to, like you said earlier, you don't want to just be swept under a rug after all the work. I've been doing this for years now, man. I've been training my tail off day in and day out for years now. You know what I mean? And so now I'm like, I'm happy, man. I'm in a place now where it's like people are starting to recognize my hard work, and it feels good.
I'm so happy that you're finally getting your due, because I've been singing your praises for the last few years. I truly believe you're one of the 2 or 3 very best in the world at featherweight, man, and I'm just so happy that you're finally getting your due there, brother. Well, I know that you have a big fight coming up here against Nazareno. I want to give you a few minutes, shout out your training partners, your sponsors, anything you'd like, man.
Definitely want to shout out my 2 gyms, Belmore Kickboxing, Keith Trimble, Spiro Blantis, Joe Scarola and Gracie Baja. Shout out my management, Battle Squad management, man, and you know, all my training partners, everybody, man. You guys know, and work time, man. I'm excited, man. Get out there and put in some work. And if you haven't listened already, you got to go to the fight and check out my podcast, man. Me and Randy Brown, we out here talking about things from the fighter's point of view, and you got to go in there, man, get some laughs and enjoy the podcast.
Absolutely, will do. I appreciate your time, Andre. Best of luck to you, man, this Thursday at PFL 4 against Nazareno. It's going to be a great time in Nassau.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Take care, Andre. All right, there you go, Andre Harrison.
Man, I am such a fan of him. He was one of our very first interviews.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do believe he's one of the very best featherweights in the world, along with Lance Palmer. Very excited to see both of them in action in just a matter of days. Bellator 202 went down from Thackerville, Oklahoma. I was there covering the event.
How was it, man?
How was what? Thackerville?
Yeah, how was Thackerville?
It was okay. A lot of people like Luke Thomas and a lot of other guys, they kind of rag on Thackerville, but, you know, it wasn't bad. I mean, it's not Chicago. You know, it's not a big city, but it's everybody's really nice in Oklahoma and North Texas, man. It's a different world. It's a slower pace, and you know, everybody's not in a big hurry, and everybody's not an asshole like me. You know, everybody is nice and considerate, and just a different world, man.
Did it just touch you a little bit?
In a way.
You know, when I walked in, you seemed a little bit changed.
One thing I did like about it is I like when the Bellator has their events in casinos, because I am a part-time smoker when I'm on the road covering events. When I'm at the house and whatnot, I use my vapor, but when I'm covering events on the road, the vapor, the batteries, and the juice, it's just more gear to carry. So I do have that one particular vice left in my life, cigarettes. However, when I'm in a casino, I could smoke. So that is an extra little perk.
That had to have been nice.
But, yeah, man, I mean, Julia Budd, she looked tremendous. She defeated Thalia Nogueira via ground and pound, 407 in round 3. And after the fight, you know, we spoke with her, and, you know, I asked her, she's only got 2 losses in her career, right?
Yeah.
It's to Ronda Rousey and Amanda Nunes.
2 of probably the best Ronda Rousey at the time was one of the best, and you couldn't really figure her out.
And Amanda Nunes
is the best.
Right, her and Cyborg. And, you know, Julia Budd said, I think that me and one other person are the best in the world. And I said, that being Cyborg? And she said, yes. And
Whoa.
I do believe that a showdown between these two is not only likely, but I believe it's inevitable, because Cyborg has been increasingly outspoken that this is going to be...
This is her last fight in UFC, man.
Right. And she already has a great relationship with Coker, and Bellator is building a very robust 145-pound women's division. I think this is going to be a true women's super fight. Maybe that'll take place in the middle of next year, perhaps. But
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to talk about Julia Budd. I respect Chris Cyborg for wanting to lead the UFC, not for competition, because she's probably going to make more money in the UFC with pay-per-view and things like that. Actually, she probably could make more money in Bellator. But the fact she actually wants to challenge herself and have real fights, I respect that. Now, Julia Budd, holy moly was I wrong. Saying that she got the knockout TKO through ground and pound doesn't tell the whole story, because before that, she landed one hell of a combination with a kick and a punch that brought that girl to the ground. Mm-hmm. She was all over the place, fast-paced, crisp. She looked like a world beater. I honestly could not see I could see her fighting Amanda Nunes and it being the craziest fight I've seen in a long time, or fighting Chris Cyborg and actually taking it to her. So that was a heck of a performance. She is on my radar. She is probably one of my favorite fighters right now.
Yeah, Bud is an enigma, man, because sometimes she looks terrible, and other times, like in Thackerville this last weekend, she looks tremendous. So, when she's on, and hats off to her because, right now there's not many that are better than her.
Is it kind of that Anderson Silva effect, where Anderson Silva wasn't like, when he wouldn't take it seriously?
I don't know if I'd say that because she takes every fight pretty seriously. How about Michael McDonald, man? He smashed Eduardo Dantes. Terrible injury for Dantes, man. And you'd be hard-pressed to find 58 seconds that was more action-packed than this was. I mean, you got to feel for Michael McDonald, man. He breaks his left hand this time around. This young man will have 6 hand surgeries, assuming he has to have surgery to take care of this one. And, speaking with him after the fight, he didn't come out and say that he was done, but I tell you, man, it doesn't seem like he's got anything left for this sport.
And that is really sad because this guy, in my opinion, is one of the top heaviest hitters I've ever seen. He's even said it. I think I hit too hard. I think he hits too hard. But 6 surgeries on your hand, that does become a little frightening.
And he's still young. He's still young.
It's not like he's later in his career. Like, I think another person, Daniel Cormier, has had a lot of surgeries on his hand, broken his hand quite a bit. His hand is broken right now. But it is frightening when you're seeing a guy getting multiple hand surgeries. It changed Floyd Mayweather's way he fought because of his hands and his father. So I could easily see this happening to him. I hope he does come back, but honestly, if his heart isn't in it and he's scared of breaking his hands, I don't want him to come back because that's only going to set up for danger.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation for McDonald, man, and pun intended, a terrible break for Eduardo Dantes, right? I mean, speaking of Anderson Silva, his leg injury was quite reminiscent of the Anderson Silva Chris Weidman leg break.
It was, when I saw it happen, I immediately looked away. I couldn't look at it.
I don't believe that anybody there actually in Thackerville realized what happened until we actually saw the replay, and then a collective went through the auditorium there.
Those kind of breaks always scare you.
Terrible, man. Just bad luck for him. But real quick on McDonald, you're right. I mean, it's unfortunate because look what McDonald was able to do to a 2-time former champ in less than a minute. So it's just a sad situation. Hopefully McDonald does return to Bellator action, but if he doesn't, we understand that too. Chris Honeycutt dominated Leo Leche, earned a unanimous decision, and you were super impressed with Honeycutt.
Yeah, man. I've always really liked Chris Honeycutt.
Super cool guy.
Super cool guy. Great friend of the show. I can't wait till he eventually comes and we get to meet him in person. I'm going to meet that man in person. He's super awesome. But, man, this guy should really be promoted or something. I don't know what needs to happen, but he is a star in Bellator in my eyes. He looks the part. He fights the part. He goes out there. And really, if you look at his record and his credentials, Lovato Jr. was really the only thing we can say. And honestly, I think you can make a case that Chris Honeycutt won.
A lot of people
do
believe,
yeah, he won that fight. So I can't even hold that against him. He is, in my opinion, one of the top middleweights in that division. He definitely deserves a huge round of applause and just huge credit, man. That dude is a beast.
Yeah, Honeycutt, after the fight, he kind of threw out the name of Lyoto Machida as a possible guy he'd like to fight next.
Lyoto doesn't want none of that.
I feel for Honeycutt, man, because I spoke with him after the Lovato loss, and he took that one very, very seriously. He took that one to heart, man.
And then he took it out on this guy's face.
And he's not the kind of a guy to tell you just how devastated he was, because he's very prideful. There's nothing wrong with that. But I could tell just by speaking with Chris that after that Lovato fight, he was very dejected. It could have been a turning point in his career. But props to him, man, because he took that negative and turned that into a positive, and I think that he's going to be a better fighter because of it. He's a tough puzzle to crack at 185 pounds because he's got the wrestling, he's got some decent striking, he's got the power, and he's a hell of an athlete. So it's going to be fun to see what Bellator does with him going forward. On the undercard, Yaro Amosov over Gerald Harris via unanimous decision. Gerald Harris told me after the fight, came up to me, he's like, bro, I can't do the 170 anymore. I'm done. I'm going back up to 185. So I do believe that's the last time we'll see Gerald at 170. And also Steve Cazzola KO'd Ryan Walker, minute and 45 of round 1. It's good to see Steve Cazzola back on the winning track.
It is. I feel that Steve Cazzola is a very, very good fighter and definitely somebody that could be a name in Bellator. To the Gerald Harris point, I love that guy. I love the way he fights. But I even said it beforehand by talking to him. 170 was a little too low for him. He's depleting his body a little too much. He made the weight, but man, that had an effect on him in that fight, and everybody could see it. I think if he goes back to 185, he can be a top 10 guy up there easily.
No doubt about it. And hats off to Ryan Walker, too. I know he'll be back and better than ever after his loss to Steve Cazzola. All right, we had a chance to speak with PFL 4 headliner Lance "The Party" Palmer, good friend of the show, always willing to make time for us. Here's our conversation with The Party. I want to welcome back Lance "The Party" Palmer to the show. Has a big fight coming up here at PFL 4 in just a couple of days. What's going on, man?
Not much. Just got here yesterday to Long Island, and already settled in and everything. So everything's going smoothly and ready to get this win on Thursday.
You have a pretty tough opponent, man. Andre Harrison defeated the gentleman, Turno Jumbaki. It's a very unorthodox last name. But you and I spoke a little bit when you were in Chicago, and you weren't very impressed by Andre's performance, were you?
No, I mean, I know how good Andre is, and I know how great of a athlete, fighter he is. And, you know, I know the opponent is tough. And that may have been, some of the reason he wasn't able to get a finish and things like that. But I mean, for how good Andre is, and how great he's had a record of being undefeated for his career and stuff like that, I thought he could have finished him. But every style of fighting is different, and that people match up differently. So sometimes things don't go as planned, and I don't know if he was just looking to get the win or if he was trying to get a finish, but I definitely go out there and try and finish fights. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do on Thursday.
No, you definitely do, man. And no disrespect to Andre at all, but I know what you mean. At times it seemed like he could have gave it a little bit more to maybe finish the fight, and it looked like he may have played it safe. But no disrespect to Andre. But speaking of Andre, he's also fighting on this card, and it's in Nassau Coliseum. You would think that he would be the headliner, but nope. You, Lance Palmer, you have the headlining spot in this, man. Were you surprised, or did you think that maybe you earned that by your last performance?
I don't really know. I mean, I feel like there was a lot of great performances on the last card on PFL 1 for the featherweights and heavyweights. And for me, for this season of PFL, I don't really care where I'm at on the card. Where it would have been different if I was the champ. Like in the past, when I was the champ, I would be mad if I wasn't main or co-main event, just because if you have the belt, you feel like you have earned a spot in the top, the last 2 fights of the night. But I mean, in his hometown, I feel like they would have put him as the headliner, or I mean, he's co-main event, which is great, but I don't know. I feel like it was probably performance based. I have no idea, but for me, I still have to go out. It's still the same opponent. I'm still getting paid the same regardless. So whether it's the first fight of the night or the last fight of the night, I'm just focused on my opponent. And it's great to be the main event, but for me, I don't really think too deep into that stuff.
And you always show up in shape. You always show up looking to impress, and you are definitely one of the more fan-pleasing fighters, because you're always looking for a way to end the fight, man. So we do appreciate it. But how has camp been, man? I know that you've been with Extreme Couture, right? These last few camps.
Yeah. I started actually going just out to Vegas to train in about, I think it was February or March, with Joseph Benavidez. He's one of my best friends, and I was the best man of his wedding, and he's actually going to be in my corner this week. But I went out there just to train with him because we always get good training together, and he was about to start camp for his fight against Sergio Pettis in June, and it was the same weekend as my first fight with PFL. So we just decided to train together, and that first camp, we did a lot of training at the UFC Performance Institute, because We have a lot of UFC fighters who are allowed to bring partners in for training. So we had a nice little group at the PI for a lot of our training sessions, and then we did some of our sparring at Extreme for that first camp. But this last 4 months or whatever it's been in Vegas has been great. I've gotten a lot of good partners, and the good thing about Las Vegas is even though there's different teams and different people, a lot of people come together for training, and that's why the PI was really good for me while I was able to use it with the guys who were fighting in the UFC. But also different gyms like 10th Planet Las Vegas with one of my coaches, Casey Halstead, and then obviously Extreme Couture, where the base of my training is with Eric Nixick and a lot of the coaches and guys there. So it's been really good. It's been a good change of pace, and I love the just the new looks that I've been getting from different partners and different guys, and the things at Alpha Male, everything I've learned there, and all the years of having fun with the guys and all that stuff it was great, but I felt like I needed to switch it up a little bit, and it's been refreshing for me.
For sure. Speaking of Alpha Male, did you happen to see Chad Mendez's performance?
Definitely, man. I don't miss any of their fights. All the people at Alpha Male, I still support all of them. I talk to as many of them as I can on a weekly basis, and I was really pumped for Darren Elkin's fight because he was one of my main partners over the last 2 years when he moved to SAC. But that was a tough opponent for him, and it just wasn't his night. But Chad had a great performance. He looked really good coming out, and it was I was happy for him to get that early finish and get that bonus money also because he's been out for so long. Also, Rick Glenn, a guy that I had fought in the past, he got the nod against Bermudez in a really close fight. And then Sage Northcutt's been training at the gym for a little over a year now, so that was a good win for him as well. So 3 out of 4 for them in one weekend wasn't bad at all. That was awesome. And
then you're still considered like an honorary member at least, right? So when you get this win, that'll just be 4 out of 5 then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they considered me to be part of the family because I spent 7 years there, started my career there, and I stayed there through a lot of the turmoil with coaches leaving and people leaving and stuff like that, and made more of a decision based off of I moved to Ohio with my wife, and then we bought a house there, and then it kind of just evolved from there that I would be training with Benavidez for the last couple camps. But I feel like I'll always be part of Team Alpha Male. I've helped build that team just as much as anybody in the last 7 years, and I was a wrestling coach there for 6 out of the 7 years at least, and then I hope they all support me the way I still support them. But it was never a hard feelings thing. I just wanted to explore new options and go train and get different looks was really it.
No doubt about it. And, I can argue, and I would argue that with the exception of Uriah Faber, you would be probably the next person that was most important to the growth of Alpha Males. So no doubt about it, man. Hats off to you. Well, I appreciate your time, Lance, especially on such short notice, brother. I truly appreciate it. I'd like to give you some time, shout out your sponsors, training partners, whatever you'd like, man.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to shout out Beat Kicks. They're my main sponsor for this season of PFL. Great company, beatkicks.com. You can check them out at Beat Kicks on Instagram. Also, my social media, at Lance Palmer on Instagram, at Lance Palmer on Twitter, and Lance Palmer MMA on Facebook, and then LancePalmerMMA.com for my website and apparel and stuff like that. And then all my teammates at Extreme Couture, all the guys that I've sparred with, all my coaches and my manager and everybody that's, helped me get to this point. And obviously all the guys at Alpha Male who, put in a lot of years of work to help me get here. And, I'll always respect and be thankful for that.
Thank you so much, Lance. And you're not going to want to miss it. It's the main event, PFL 4, Nassau Coliseum this Thursday night, NBC Sportsnet. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate it, brother.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You too. Take care, man. All right.
You ever watch somebody growing up and just so happy that you get to finally meet them? That's how it is when we talk to Lance Palmer.
Mr. Rogers.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor.
I know.
Well, never met him. He's dead. Well, PFL 4 happens Thursday, as we've been talking about all show. Lance Palmer headlines it against Duruxo Jumbaki. I like Palmer to win this, man.
I'm going to go with Lance Palmer in this fight because I never bet against Lance Palmer. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the other dude's name. But guess what? I'm a huge fan of Andre Harrison, and I'm going to say this. So, Andre, when you see me, don't hurt me. Lance Palmer does deserve to be the headliner of this main card. No offense to anybody else on this card, but he is the biggest name. And honestly, his last fight, he did finish.
That's true. Now, Lance Palmer's opponent is Truoxo Jimbaki in this, and I'm probably butchering the name too, but I don't care.
I won't attempt.
I wanted to make a point that the guys running the PFL, Carlos Silva, Ray Cepho, very cool guys, and they know what they're doing, but they might not like this Jimbaki because his first 2 fights in PFL have been against Andre Harrison and now Lance Palmer. I'm just saying.
Why are you giving him the toughest fights ever?
So we're both on board with Palmer.
Yeah, Palmer's going to do this.
The co-main event, Andre Harrison is taking on Nazareno Mallory.
I'm going to go with Andre Harrison. I hope we get to see Andre Harrison really put it on this guy. That's the one thing I really wanted to see in his last fight, to get those points, because I want to see him in that 8-man tournament. So I think he understands the urgency with these points. I think he's going to put it on this guy. I think he's going to go for the finish.
Yeah, I like Harrison to win this too, man. Hopefully he does go for broke, because I think that's the only knock on him, is that he isn't a finisher. But that's the only thing you could find to say negative about the man.
And normally, I don't care if you're a finisher or not in any arena, but to win $1 million, man, you got to kind of be a finisher in this tournament.
Alex Nicholson, he's going against Felipe Lins. I like Nicholson. If you remember the last time he fought, he had that amazing flying knee highlight knockout. So
that was scary.
I think that he'll find a way to get it done over Felipe Lins. I'm going Nicholson.
I'm going to go with Nicholson on this as well. Wow, this is a really rare card where we're starting to agree more and more.
Yeah, right?
I know.
You're starting to use your head.
Hey, I was the one right about Sage.
You were.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Alex Nicholson.
And then the bigger boys, Gerald Rashalt and Kelvin Tiller, friend of the show. I like Kelvin Tiller. Gerald Rashalt is a big, strong, powerful wrestler. But as we saw, Kelvin Tiller, he has some scary knockout power. And I believe that he'll catch the big dude with 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 punches. But I believe that Tiller will get the job done.
After hearing your pick, I really wanted to change mine, but I can't. Calvin Tiller has way too much dang power, and he actually knows how to use it. He's just not swinging for the fences. He can hit you, and he knows where to hit you. I think he's going to be able to get it done. Man, why do we agree?
UFC Hamburg takes place this weekend, Apollo, and we had a chance to catch up with one fighter competing on the undercard. Former heavyweight fighter, now fighting at light heavyweight, Houston, Texas' own Justin El Blanco Ledet. Here's our conversation.
I do have so many hardships going on just in the light circumstance. So hopefully we can keep that going though, that undefeated streak. So
yeah, absolutely, man. Now your opponent is Alexander Raychik. He's a very tough guy, man. Are you a fighter that likes to watch a lot of video on your opponents, or do you leave that to your coaches?
No, I leave a lot of that up to my coaches. I really don't like watching a lot of film on people because they haven't fought me yet. So when they get in there with me, or any other opponent, they tend to do other, different things than they would normally do. There's always a game plan. And then I always like the thrill of just getting there and reading my opponent, figuring out on the fly of what he's doing, how I can, do it better. So.
For sure. Now your fight's in Hamburg, so obviously that's going to require a little bit of travel for you. How do you incorporate, knowing that you're going to have to make a trip across the pond? How do you incorporate that into your training? Just about a little over a couple weeks to your fight.
Well, actually, the big thing for me is anytime I travel, I like to get out there super early. Like I actually leave for Germany Tuesday. So I'll be out there actually like 12 or 13 days before the fight even happens.
Okay.
And yeah, so I know that works for me. I hate flying, so the jet lag takes a lot out of me. It's going to be like the first time that I go out of country and have to weight cut. First time I got a weight cut in a long time. So there's a lot of obstacles, but, I know how my body functions, and I know, what I do like and what I don't like. So we just try to get out there early, have a game plan set up for how we want to execute certain things, and get out there and see if we can put it into fruition. Things always happen when you get on that plane and you get into another country. Sometimes you can't find the exact food that you want to eat. finding certain places. I mean, the language barrier. There's going to be a bunch of things we have to deal with, but I'm excited for the challenge. I'm excited to pretty much go into his backyard. I know he's from Austria, but Germany's right next to Austria, so I feel like I'll be going into his backyard, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And I'm ready for war.
For sure. Now, is there do you have a couple of things that you definitely want to do when you're out there in Germany? Do you want to like go see the wall, or do you have some sites that you want to visit?
Not really, man. I mostly go out and sightsee just in between the workouts, just to like clear my head, because I really don't like focusing on the fight. I feel like that mentally drains you. So I always try to get out and experience, whatever environment I'm in. But at the same time, I take it as a business trip. Business is always on my mind, and that's first and foremost, and that's always going to be in the back of my head. So I'm just going to see what's out there and what I can get into, what I feel like doing. I don't know how much energy I'm going to have with the flying and the weight cut and everything. So just kind of take it day by day and see what happens.
That's all we can do. Now, I know a while back you actually signed or the Project Spearhead movement. Any news on that?
No, I haven't heard anything of recent. But honestly, I've been detached from a lot of things. So I just haven't been in the flow. Just been trying to detach my life just from the whole just social media and just everything that involves that. Just trying to deal with me and what I got going on. So I really haven't been able to get out and really help support the movement as much as I would like to.
I hear you, man. Social media is it's draining, to say the least, for sure. I hear you on that. Now, before I let you go, man, I always like to give fighters, a few minutes here to shout out your sponsors, your team, whatever you'd like. And I just wanted to mention that JustinLedetBoxing.com, I checked it out myself, and that's a very cool site you got there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And for sure, man, I'd like to say a big thanks for all my sponsors from Alvin and the whole Houston area. Vitality Bowls, Mr. Fire Protection, RXMA, Corey's Kitchen, and Peak Performance. My boy Dominic Castillo over there. Shout out to Mission Boxing Academy, Gracie Bar, Texas, Professor Dracolino, all the guys over there, all my sparring partners, everybody that's helped out with this camp. Everybody's been so helpful. Shout out Pure Spectrum CBD. If y'all are having aches and pains, can't sleep at night, y'all need to get y'all on that CBD. Check out PureSpectrumCBD.com. That's about it.
Well, I appreciate your time, Justin. I know that you're super busy here before your big fight, UFC Hamburg. Again, you're not going to want to miss it, guys. UFC Hamburg, Justin Ledet is taking on Alexander Raychik, and he's looking to go to 10-0, right?
Hell yeah, of course.
I appreciate your time so much, brother. Safe travels.
All right, thanks, man.
All right.
I really hope that he can keep his power going down.
For sure. At full disclosure, on the interview there, I had technical difficulties with the first minute and a half, so it cut off. I didn't record the first minute and a half of the interview because of that. So again, I apologize. But full disclosure here, there's no bullshit.
Yeah, we keep it real.
So let's quickly here go through our UFC Hamburg picks before we get out of here. The main event, this card in general has seen a few changes here, but
yeah, like every 10 seconds.
Yeah, right. But now the main event's going to be Shogun versus friend of the show, Anthony Smith. I like Anthony Smith. I just believe the kid is ready. I think it's his time. You saw what he did to Rashad Evans at UFC 225. He's a massive light heavyweight, but more importantly, I just think that they're at opposite points of their career. Shogun, although he has been on a very nice win streak as of late, he just isn't the Shogun of old, and Anthony Smith is trying to get to where Shogun once was. So I believe that Lionheart will get the job done.
I'm going to be changing Anthony Smith's nickname to Legend Killer because I think that he will get the job done against Shogun. I've never thought I would say that Shogun would lose. I'm such a fan. But, man, Anthony Lionheart Smith, he's a friend of the show, and he's a beast, dismantling Rashad Evans, which is, yes, later in his career, no easy task, but I'm changing his nickname to Legend Killer.
And then Glover Teixeira and Corey Anderson in the co-main event. This one is a little interesting. Friend of the show, Corey Anderson, didn't have enough time to get him or Anthony Smith on because it all happened so very quickly. But, Glover Teixeira, he is not done yet. I just don't believe he is. In his last fight against Alexander Gustafsson, he ate probably too many uppercuts for his own good. He was way too tough for his own good in that fight. That fight was only a little over a year ago. Seems like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it seems like forever.
Corey Anderson, at times he looks great. Other times, he leaves you scratching your head. I just think that Glover Teixeira still has very deadly hands and still has one hell of a chin. And for that reason, I believe he will get past Corey Anderson here.
Corey Anderson's a little bit older now. He seems a lot wiser. I feel that Corey Anderson is on that cusp of being able to finally... His issue has never been skill or talent. It's always seemed to be mental, where he shows up, then he doesn't. I feel with age, he might be hitting that time where he's mentally going to just be able to be consistent. I'm going to go with Corey Anderson out of faith that he will be able to put it all together.
All right. And then Vitor Miranda versus Abu Azaitar. I like Azaitar. I just think that this has the potential to be one of those fights that not a lot of people are talking about heading in, but this fight could be the fight everybody's talking about after UFC Hamburg.
Yeah, I have no clue who any of these guys are. I've heard of Vitor, but I haven't heard of... I'm not even going to try his name because I feel like I'm going to butcher it, and I apologize. I'm not going to make a pick on this fight. I'm just going to sit back, watch, because you've been talking them up this entire time.
How about Stefan Struve versus Marcin Tybura? I like Tybura because, Stefan Struve, remember when he burst onto the scene, everybody was like, man, if this kid could fill out, he's filled out a little bit, but I don't believe he's ever even came close to what everybody thought he could be. I just think that we're never going to get that Stefan Struve, that what could have been. Contrary, Marcin Tybura is a guy that I don't think will ever be a champion. I don't think he'll ever be an elite heavyweight, but I do believe he is a very good test for guys trying to break through to the top 10, to the top 15. And I know Struve is already in that range, but Tybura is a very tough guy that people really don't give credit to. He's got a very good ground game, and I think that's going to be the difference. He's a smart fighter, he's cerebral, and I think he's going to fight this fight where it makes more sense for him, and that's on the canvas. Struve has shown at times an ability to have a decent guard off the back. I just don't think he gets it done against Tybura.
I'm with you. I've lost faith in Struve. I was trying to be on this man's bandwagon for the longest time. I just thought that a guy at 7 foot that could strike, that was good off his back, man, that's the most dangerous person I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But he just doesn't have a chin anymore, and it just also seems that...
I don't know if he ever did.
I don't think he ever did, but it just seems every time he goes against guys who are mentally tough, he can't get it done. So I'm going to go with Tybura on this fight. He's just too much for Struve.
And then Mark Dacassi going against Nasrat Hakparsat. I like Dacassi in this. I know that Mark Dacassi has kind of hit a rough patch as of late, but if you look, the guys that he's lost to are all guys that have very high ceilings. So, I'm not really going to hold those against him. This is another fight, though. This is going to be nonstop action. This is going to be a very exciting fight, a very entertaining fight. All in all, the Hamburg card may not have the star power, but I think, like Boise, this card in general is going to deliver. But I'm going to go Dacassi here.
I'm going Dacassi as well. He is by far one of my favorite people to play in the UFC game, so I'm just going to pretend that I'm playing.
And then David Zawada versus Danny Roberts. That is going to kick everything off on the main card. I like Zawada, and I don't really have much reason why I'm picking him here. I'm just going to go Zawada.
I'm not going to make a pick on this fight, honestly, because this fight has changed like 4 times on me. So I'm just going to sit back, relax, and watch this fight.
Also, as we mentioned on the undercard, undefeated heavyweight Justin Ledet, 9-0, fighting Alexander Raychik, and undefeated bantamweight Manny Bermudez at 12-0 is fighting Davey Grant. And Emil Meek is fighting on the card, as you mentioned, too.
Yeah, I was just looking at the card, strolling down, having fun. I love seeing, but man, I love Emil Meek.
So, Apollo, guess who I found hiding under my couch?
Who?
John Jones.
Why, were you expecting USADA?